Today we worked on metric conversions. I introduced the metric system to you a couple of days ago, and we found that some of the units in the metric system were a lot more similar than they were different. Unlike in our standard system where we have fluid ounces, then we have cups, then we have pints, quarts, gallons, and there are different amounts that make up each. In the metric system, we learned that a centiliter is 10 times greater than a milliliter. A deciliter is 10 times greater than a centiliter. A liter is, you guessed it, 10 times greater than a deciliter. A deciliter is, big surprise, 10 times greater than a liter, and so on and so forth. Anytime we convert from one metric unit to the other, we're either multiplying or dividing by tens. It might be 10 times 10 or 10 times 10, which is 100, 1,000, 10,000. Our digits will never change in that if there's a 2 and a 4 and then some zeros, we're still going to always have the 2 and 4. The only thing that will change is the number of zeros we have and their placement within the number. All right, we also learned that they share base units. The liter is the unit that we use to measure liquids. That measures capacity. And we found that that was an easy one to come up with because we know if we get a 2-liter bottle of Coke at the Publix, we're always talking about liquid. Meter, that was pretty recognizable to most of us because a meter stick is oftentimes used interchangeably with a yardstick. We found a meter stick is just slightly longer, but they're very close. And then the last unit we learned about was the gram. That wasn't as familiar, but I still think many of us realized that that measured weight. Now the base unit I circled, each of them is liter, meter, gram. Now you can't convert liters to meters or liters to grams. You can't convert a liquid to distance. That doesn't make any sense. But you can convert between milli, centi, deci, liter, deca, hecto, or kiloliters, and so forth. Now, to do that, we learned about a fellow named King Henry, and he had a very tragic end. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. Now, why such an ugly saying? Well, because it works. And that's the only thing I can say. We tried to come up with our own acronyms, but there were holes in them. So when we think of King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, we're sorry for this poor guy. Sorry, King Henry. However, we're glad we have a system to remember the order in which the metric system falls. We take the first letter in each word, King, Henry, died, by, drinking, chocolate, milk, and that helps us remember how to place them in order. Now you might say, there wasn't a B. Well, that stands for our base unit, either liter, meter, or gram. Let's see how it works. All right, in these examples, we start out, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. Space them out so you can mess with them. All right, in our first problem, we see that 10 meters needs to be converted to hectometers. Notice the base unit is the same, but here we see we're moving to hecto. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, am I going from a small unit to a large unit or a large unit to a small unit? I know where I'm at. I'm located at 10. I'm at the base unit meters, okay? Where I have to travel is hectometers. So I'm going from a small unit of measurement to a larger. Small to big, just like in standard, or I can do this. Small to big, we're going to divide this pig, okay? Now, when we divide a number, we know that it gets smaller. Now, if you can't think about 10 meters, and 10 is a pretty easy number, but if you can't think about 340, is that smaller or bigger? Just think about a really small number. If I divide 4 by 2, I get a quotient of 2. Is that bigger than 4 or smaller? It's smaller. When we divide a number, it gets smaller. If I take that same 4 and that same 2 and I multiply them, I get a bigger unit. So when I go small to big, I'm dividing this pig, I know that the original number, 10, will become smaller. So I put my 10 down, and I say, okay, from meters to hectometers. Here's my base unit. This is going to be, again, meter, liter, or gram. I am traveling to hectograms. So I'm going 1, 2, 3. Don't be too cool to draw the lines. It really helps. So I'm moving 3 spaces, but I have to decide which direction. So that's where you mess around with it. We know that each whole number has a pretend decimal place at the end. So this would be my decimal point. If I start here and I start moving my decimal point over here, did I just make the number bigger or smaller? Well, I would have made it 1 and 0 hundredths. That's a lot less than 10. And I found that small to big, divide that pig, I would make this number smaller. So I'm traveling in the right direction. I have to go 1, 2, 3 places, so I'm not there yet. There's 1, 2, and I'm crowding myself, but there's 3 places. Now you might say you ran out of numbers, but no worries. All you have to do is fill in a 0. So my final answer is 0 and 0, 1, 0. 0, 1, 0. 10 thousandths. Don't worry about reading that correctly. It's the idea that I want you to get. I placed an extra 0 in front of the decimal point. You can see it didn't change the value. Not at all. I still have 0 if it looked like this. Oops, my bad. I still have 0 out here. I just didn't place it. This makes it easier for the reader. All right, let's do another one. This out of our way. We have 100 kilograms. All right, 100 kilograms. Well, I know that's the biggest, right? So I must be going big to small. Deci's way down here. It's very small. So I'm going big to small. That means I'm going to multiply it all. All right. When I multiply, my number gets bigger. I saw that over here. Okay? So when I multiply, my number gets bigger. I'm going to go ahead and put my 100 that I started with. Not making anything up. And we know that each whole number has a pretend decimal point right at the end. We don't use it because we don't need it. It's just 100 wholes. But I have to see how far I'm traveling. So from kilo to deci, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4 places. So I have to go, to make my number bigger, 1, 2, 3, 4 places. And that's where my pretend decimal would land. But I'm going to go ahead, fill it in with zeros. I wind up with a huge number. 1, 0, 0. Notice I don't even know what it is yet. 1, be sure you count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'll come in here and go 1, 2, 3 spaces, comma for thousands. I wind up with 100 kilograms are equal to 1 million decigrams. Let's do another one. Can't get rid of my King Henry. Okay, we're starting at 509 liters, and we're going to centiliters. Let's see, liters is my base. Centiliters, we're going big to small, and we're going to travel 1, 2 places to get there. So big to small, we're going to multiply it all. All right, so I know my number's going to get bigger. I'm going to take this 509 and I'm going to put it over here so I don't crowd myself. Don't do that in math. You're liable to mess it up. We don't want to do that. All right, so how far did I say I'd travel? 1, 2 places. So again, I'm making my number bigger because I'm multiplying. So I'm going to add zeros to the end. So right now I have 9 ones, 0 tens, and 5 hundreds. I'm going to take my 1, 2 places I had to travel and instead add 2 zeros. Now I have 9 hundreds, 0 thousands, and 5 ten thousands for a total of 50,999. Stay with me. All right, got a few more, and then I'm going to give you some help with the bonus sheet I gave you today. All right, we start out with, some abbreviations. That's not a big deal. What's the G stand for? There's not a G up here. It must be our base unit, grams. Okay, so we're traveling from centigrams to hectograms. Well, hecto's way up here. Centi's way down here. This is where we're starting, and we're going 1, 2, 3, 4 places. Are we going big to small or small to big? Centi is small, that's what we already have. And we're going to hecto, so we're going small to big. We're going to multiply it all. No, small to big, forgive me. Divide this pig. All right, so we're going to divide it. And when we divide, we know the number gets smaller. So, I'm going to jot this number down so that I have plenty of room to stretch out. And I'm going to insert my pretend decimal, and I say pretend. It really does exist. We don't use it. Pop that in right there. Now, I have to travel 1, 2, 3, 4 places. When I divide a number, it gets smaller. So if I went this way with zeros, I'd make it bigger. I'm going to go left. 1, 2, 3, and I don't count the comma, 4 places. Park my decimal. Now this time, the decimal becomes very important because it saves my place. So I go 3, 5, 35, and 0, 2, 0, 1. Oh my goodness, what a number. 35 and 201 10,000ths hectograms. My goodness. Okay, go to another one. That was a harder one than I intended. Okay, but you can do it. Now we're going grams to centigrams. So we're starting here at our base, and we're going down to centi. Looks like we're traveling from big to small. And we're going 2 places, starting with gram, to small, centigram. All right, so big to small, multiply it all. So I know 27 is going to get larger. I'm going to go ahead, pop my 27 in here. And since I traveled 1, 2 spaces, I'm going to take that pretend decimal and go 1, 2, and plug in 2 zeros. Now when I record my answer, I go 2, 7, 0, 0, and I count over 1, 2, 3 digits before it's my thousands period, and I wind up with 2,700. Last practice problem, and then I'm going to give you yet another page. We're going from decaliters to deciliters, D to D. So we're starting here, and we're going 1, 2, 3 places here. We started big, and we went to small. Big to small, multiply it off. Oh my, we're going to wind up with a big number. All right, because it's going to be so big, I'm going to write it under here. 3809. Plug in that pretend decimal. Okay? And how many places did we travel? 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And plug in some zeros. Now remember, I moved it. When I traveled, this decimal no longer exists. It moved to right there. Okay? So now we have 3, 8, 0, 9. I need longer lines. 1, 2, 3 more zeros. 1, 2, 3 places is a comma. 1, 2, 3 places is another comma. 3,809,000 deciliters are equal to 3,809 deciliters. Here are the answers to the sheet I gave you in class. It was an optional sheet, but I hope you took the time and initiative to practice them. These are the answers you're looking for. I'm going to close out the video, so if you want to get these, please pause now. We'll continue practicing tomorrow in class.